Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. Yesterday, March 2nd, 2016, the major news headline was that Aubrey McClendon, the former CEO of Chesapeake Energy, a pioneer in fracking, the practice of extracting natural gas from the earth, passed away in a fiery car wreck one day after being indicted on federal charges of violating the Sherman Antitrust Act. As soon as I heard this news, the first thing I thought of was Ken Lay, the former CEO of Enron, who died of a heart attack after being sentenced to prison. He died exactly 110 days before his prison sentence was to begin. Later in 2006, he passed away July 5th, 2006. He was supposed to begin his prison sentence October 23rd. At the time, I thought Ken Lay's death was highly suspicious, and every person who I hinted to that I thought his death was faked to avoid his prison term, I got the typical response: "Oh, Zach, you're crazy." And to this day, I've never thought it was crazy to think that Ken Lay faked his death, recognizing that he was one of the most powerful men in the nation. Enron and Ken Lay were the biggest campaign contributors to George W. Bush, the president at the time of his death. When Bush first took the office in 2001, almost every picture of him was with Ken Lay. So, very powerful man, completely capable of having his death faked to avoid a prison sentence. And the same exact thing is true of Aubrey McClendon. So, let's watch this mainstream news coverage, then let's break down what's curious about his death, and then let's also examine what was very suspicious about Ken Lay's death. I want to show you the parallels. So, here we go with the news coverage.
A titan of the oil industry, dead just hours after being indicted by a federal grand jury. Officials confirming Aubrey McClendon, the former CEO of Chesapeake Energy, one of the world's biggest natural gas producers, killed in a car crash in Oklahoma City.
So I just want to pause right here. Look at how burned up this car is. When people get in car wrecks, their cars don't typically explode unless it's in the movies. This looks like a movie scene right here. Also, ask yourself, what is a billionaire doing driving a 2013 Chevy Tahoe? That's not a vehicle that a billionaire drives, let's be honest. Very suspicious from the start. And then, of course, one day after an indictment,
Early Wednesday, police say McClendon drove into a bridge wall on a two-lane highway and that the vehicle was so badly burned they couldn't tell at first if he was wearing a seatbelt.
He pretty much drove straight into the wall. The information and the evidence out there at the scene is that he went left to center, went through a grassy area.
yeah, grassy area. Look at this officer's name. These police officers are Freemasons. They often recreate their names to have special gematria. Paco Balderrama. I mean, it's possible that that's his birth name, but we'll look in just a moment about what's suspicious about his name. Remember, the police are owned by the Freemasons. Freemasons often reformat their names to give them the numerical significance that they want. Paco Balderrama, very suspicious name.
Right before colliding into the embankment. There was plenty of opportunity for him to correct or get back on the roadway, and that didn't occur.
Reuters reporter Joshua Schneier has been covering McClendon for 5 years.
Mr. McClendon was a larger than life figure. He was really part of the renaissance of fracking, hydraulic fracturing, and drilling for natural gas and oil across the country, part of which helped the U.S. Quickly boost oil and gas production and what we now consider the shale oil and gas boom. He was a controversial figure. He was considered very aggressive in his land leasing tactics. He was a consummate deal maker.
His car wreck comes less than 24 hours after being charged with conspiracy to rig bids to buy oil and natural gas leases for drilling in Oklahoma. Those charges followed a federal antitrust probe that began after suspicious behavior was uncovered in a 2012 Reuters investigation involving Chesapeake and a rival in Kana.
We found during that reporting that McClendon had exchanged emails both with deputies at Chesapeake and with officials at Encana, in which they discussed how to suppress the price of land leases in their bidding in Michigan during 2010.
If convicted, he faced a prison term of 10 years and a fine of up to $1 million. McClendon used his success to fund many philanthropic efforts and business ventures, including part ownership in the NBA Oklahoma City Thunder, which plays in the Chesapeake Energy Arena. And he also was involved with national politics. In 2004, he was part of the big money behind the Swift boat attacks against Democratic presidential nominee John Kerry. McClendon was 56 years old.
So if you don't remember the Swift boat ads, Truth Seeker, that is what sunk John Kerry, supposedly. He went from being the favorite to win in 2004 to rapidly under George W. Bush. And again, Kenneth Lay, a major supporter of Bush in his first term. So there's another parallel between Kenneth Lay and Aubrey McClendon. Also, that energy company that they showed on the screen, who's also involved in the racket, they have gematria that matches the word energy, Encana Energy. I'll show you how Chesapeake has the gematria as well. So let's get to it. If you're new here, I talk about numerology, gematria. Gematria is a practice of the Freemasons, and it is the Freemasons who rule over us. They control governments, media, corporations, and one of their favorite practices is abiding by this numerological code, from words to dates, as you'll understand more and more as we decode this. The name Aubrey Kerr McClendon, what stands out the most is that Aubrey has gematria of 27. He started Chesapeake Energy in 1989, 27 years ago. The name McClendon has gematria of 38, like the word death, but also like the word energy, the small way. Energy, the small way, equals 38. This is a fitting name for an actor agent to serve the part of the head of a major energy company. And so often these Masonic men, they take on these actor agent names to fulfill roles, from government positions to CEO positions. So I suspect that Aubrey McClendon is now going on to whatever his likely birth name was. I suspect that this was his actor agent name. His days as the actor agent are now over. He can probably assume his original identity. So Aubrey Kerr McClendon. Aubrey McClendon sums to 65. He's dead at age 56. In history, we've seen many actor agents die at this age, from Abraham Lincoln to Adolf Hitler. Both of those men died in the month of April, the only month with 56 gematria. We'll see how these numbers connect to Ken Lay so well in just a moment. His full name in simple English gematria sums to 207. In numerology, 0 doesn't count. 207 is a lot like 27. Again, he was the head of the company for 27 years. His initials, AM. A's the first letter, M's the 13th. The letters AM form 113, which is a signature of the Freemasons. Scottish Rite Freemasonry, the branch of Masonry that has dominated this nation since the beginning, has gematria of 113, just like mainstream, just like dishonest. Numbers these people love to code in their ongoing agendas. Baba Kama 113a, Jewish Holy Book, says Jews may use lies to circumvent Gentiles. Notice the 113, dishonest, mainstream, Freemasonry, secret society, all tying together. Chesapeake, the small way, sums to 38, just like the word energy, just like the name McClendon, a number that also ties to death. Ken Lay died on a date with 38 numerology, as many celebrities do. Chesapeake also has gematria 56, the age McClendon died at. Chesapeake the Big Way, 74, just like energy. Chesapeake in English gematria, 444, 74, just like Masonic. Notice that Masonic also has the gematria of 223. In a moment, we'll talk about how this number connects to the Oklahoma City Thunder and more. McClendon, 56, was driving alone and traveling very fast when his car drove straight into an overpass wall, according to the Oklahoma City Police Department. See, according to the police department. And the police are here for who? Since the beginning, the police have been employed by the wealthy industry. The first ever police were were located in India, and they were there for the traders. They were employed by the merchants, industry. And it's always been that way ever since. Police are not here for the general population. If you've ever needed the police before, you've likely found out how useless they are. The majority of us, the only impact police have on our lives is writing tickets. They are here for the wealthy class. They are not here for us. They are part of the deception. They are owned by the Freemasons. They say he was driving a 2013 Chevy Tahoe. That's the same year he had to step down as chairman of his company. That's the year he got himself in hot water. 2013, independent year numerology, you can add 20 plus 13, giving you 33. A number of the Freemasons, a number often coded into hoaxes and psychological operations. With regards to Chevrolet Tahoe, it has gematria of 67, which connects to Freemasonry. It also connects to blood sacrifice. I don't think he really died. It's possible he did. But I think it's just a sacrifice, again, of the character, Aubrey McClendon. Chevy also has that gematria of 27, syncing up with Aubrey, how long he was affiliated with the company. Chevy Tahoe has gematria of 112. Remember, 112 is the alternate dialing code for 911. If you punch that in your phone, you will get 911. The reporting said he drove straight into an overpass wall. Overpass has gematria of 34, like the word murder. Overpass wall has gematria of 46, like sacrifice. Here's our officer, Paco Balderrama, the man confirming the death, likely being paid off to participate in the hoax. Captain Paco Balderrama, as they call him, has gematria of 84, like United States of America. Paco Balderrama, it's a typo, it should say Paco Balderrama, but the gematria is still the same. 17 plus 39 is 56. 39, of course, a signature of the Masons and Zionists who rule over us. Fitting that his name matches, again, the age of death. Captain Paco Balderrama also has gematria of 174, like New World Order, very likely a New World Order agent. Paco Balderrama equals 110. Just the day before his crash, he was quoted saying he was the first person to be singled out in 110 years. Very interesting that he used that number specifically instead of saying 100 years. 110, another one of these Masonic signature numbers. Notice it's a number with 11 numerology. They love their numbers that factor into 11. Again, Ken Lay died supposedly 110 days before he was to start his prison sentence. Just think about the World Trade Centers in history. They were 110 floors tall. They were proposed by the Rockefeller family. Rockefeller equals 110. Their demise was blamed on Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden equals 110. The word president equals 110. Technically, he wasn't a president, but he was the head, the CEO, very similar to a major company in the nation. So I don't think his use of 110 is any coincidence, or this officer having name gematria of 110. He was referencing the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890. So really, he should have said 126 years if you wanted to be super specific. He was a part owner of the Oklahoma City Thunder, the team that moved from Seattle down to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City Thunder has the gematria of 223 like Masonic. Again, in the beginning, we talked about how the company name had ties to Masonic. No surprise, it's all part of the Freemason network. In the Bible, Revelation, the 66th book, it says the false Jews will rule in the end times. Guys like this, billionaires. The synagogue of Satan also has that gematria 223. The day he died on yesterday, a date with 41 numerology. Again, 41 is the 13th prime. USA has gematria 41. The nation began with 13 colonies. He stepped down as chairman of Chesapeake on April 1st, 4/1, 2013. Yesterday's date also had 14 numerology. The word dead equals 14. He died on this date by the numbers. The date he was replaced as chairman, April 1st, 2013, a date with 38 numerology, matching with his name, McClendon, matching with Chesapeake. It was also April Fool's Day. Yesterday was also the 62nd day of the year. The word Mason equals 62. In the wake of his death, the value of the company shot up. Interesting how that works. Other news headlines had coded phrases such as this: police, McClendon crashed traveling at high rate of speed. Anytime the media emphasizes a phrase, there's always relevant gematria. High rate of speed has the gematria of 83, just like the name McClendon, the reflection of 38. No coincidence. Some other notes on this company. Again, we talked about Chesapeake Energy. Chesapeake Energy has gematria of 76, just like Oklahoma, where it's based out of. The word master equals 76. The CEO who replaced him on April 1st, 2013, Robert Douglas Lawler. Robert Douglas Lawler has gematria of 84 and 93, connecting to United States of America. Talk about these numbers with Enron in just a moment. Robert Douglas Lawler, the big way is 228, also like United States of America. He goes by Robert D. Lawler. Gematria of 153, a number often paired with 42, a Freemason signature. Again, we talked about how Aubrey equals 27, dead after 27 years of founding the company. Think about 27 and death. If you read about the company, supposedly they started it with just $50,000, but 4 years later it was worth $25 million. That is pretty amazing. To me, that's the signs of a front and a false story. You know, in 5 years to go from 50,000 to 25 million, an increase in value by 500 times. For every dollar invested, they made $500. On July 22nd, 2011, that's when the naming rights happened for the stadium that the Oklahoma City Thunder play in. They play in Chesapeake Energy Arena. Again, Oklahoma City Thunder, Synagogue of Satan, Masonic. Interesting that the code on that building has a 187, the homicide code. And then the man who made the deal ends up dying in a car crash. Some things could be a coincidence. His first emotion before he was completely replaced, April 1st, 2013, is when he was replaced by Archie Dunham as chairman, and then he lost all of his position in April. It's interesting to note that the man who replaced him had matching name gematria. Archie W. Dunham equals Aubrey McClendon. He came over from ConocoPhillips. ConocoPhillips has the gematria of 76, like Oklahoma, like Chesapeake Energy. They like their numbers. That's why so many things are coded the same way. It's why it lines up so nicely. Think about how the gas company is called 76. How many of you fill up at 76? I mean, here we're talking about energy. We know we live in a world that's run by energy companies. Wars are fought over energy. Energy, the master of this world, you could argue. So anyhow, I'll link these blog posts. There's other things that are interesting here. A lot of things by the numbers, a lot of satanic numbers. It just makes me wonder, are these tributes? But let's skip ahead to Ken Lay. So Ken Lay, he died in 2006, again 110 days before his prison sentence was to begin. He was the CEO of Enron, which was the most powerful corporation in the country prior to their scandal. I was in college studying to be an accountant when this was all going down, and pretty much all I learned about while I was in the business program, the accounting program that I was in, was the Enron scandal. This is what we talked about almost all 4 years I was in school. Notice Enron Corporation has the gematria of 93, a number connected to Saturn, Saturn worship connected to the elites, a very important number again to the Masons and the Zionists, a number that shows up a lot when we're decoding the wrongdoing in this world. Enron Corporation, 93. Kenneth Lee Lay, his full name has gematria of 56 and 65, just like Aubrey McClendon. Ken Lay was born April 15th, supposedly. Let's see, is that up here? April 15th, 1942. April 15th is tax day. That's the day we get bent over and illegally have to pay taxes, something that was, not supposed to ever occur in this nation, but something that we have, as a people, have just, shrugged our shoulders and given into. Anyhow, Zionism and Masonry equal 105, and these are the forces that rule over us and are responsible for the wrongdoing. Ken Lay, supposedly born on this day in the year 42. Freemason equals 42. He would die July 5th, 2006, supposedly, a date with 38 numerology, again connecting to death, connecting to energy. Ken Lay resigned as CEO of Enron on January 23rd, 2002. This is a date that reminds me of conspiracy. The word conspiracy equals 123, a lot like 1/23. Ken Lay was the CEO of Enron for 17 years before resigning. Mason equals 17. Aubrey McClendon just died on the 62nd day of the year. Mason equals 62, the big way. Ken Lay was indicted on July 7th, 7/7/2004, also a date with 38 numerology, again connecting to energy. Masonic the small way. On January 31st, 2006, his trial began, a date with 58 numerology, Freemasonry equals 58. A date again with 38 numerology. He was found guilty May 25th, a date with 56 numerology, connecting to Kenneth Lay, a date with 38 numerology. A lot of 38s in the coding of these men's stories. He would die 41 days after May 25th, or if you count the full span of days, 42 days. 41 and 42 are both interesting. Again, 41, the 13th prime number. 42, a Freemason signature. Supposedly, he died in Snowmass, Colorado. I mean, isn't it nice how these tyrants get treated? Enron is an awful company. Enron, if you don't recall, touched a lot of people's lives in a very negative way. They bought out the majority of energy companies in this nation at the time, boosted energy rates, bankrupted cities, bankrupted pensions. Do you remember what was going on in California with the rolling blackouts? I mean, I don't know how people don't see how the media transpires against them with our government and big industry. The media was making excuses for how there was an energy shortage in California, so they had to have these rolling blackouts, which was causing energy rates to skyrocket for people. And then after the fact, it came out that, oh, it was all a mistake, it was a fallacy, it was misreporting. I mean, don't people see how all of these entities work together? Industry, government, media. This is the company that bankrolled the Bush presidency. People just shrug their shoulders and go, well, what can I do about it? I still like George W. Bush. My dad's company, my dad worked in Portland, Oregon. Portland General Electric got bought out by Enron. Energy prices skyrocketed. At the time, my dad was working at the same place he'd worked since he graduated from high school, so for like 30 years or whatever it was at the time. And they were a meat company, so they had big freezers. They couldn't afford their energy bills anymore. They had to close. And because my dad isn't the most well-educated person, took forever to find a job. This is the kind of stuff that happens to the people of this country because these greedy tyrants are just after profit and don't care about people. And we let this go on and on and on. You know, we had Enron in the past. Now we have people like Aubrey McClendon. And look at what they're doing now. I mean, they're tearing up the earth for all this natural gas that's not even needed, all for profit. We have the technology to go in completely different directions, but instead we choose to tear up the earth for natural gas. Why? Because it's more profitable. So, you know, I do all this decoding. The decoding is really secondary to what I just said. I'm just trying to show you guys how they script this madness, these tyrants. But really, the wrongdoing is in what I'm speaking to right now. You know, tearing up the earth for no good reason other than profit. And we'll close with how Ken Lay was living before he died. If you've never seen his palace he was living in. But anyway, Ken Lay supposedly died in Snowmass, Colorado, vacationing. I mean, these guys get to go on vacation even though they know they have to go to prison. It's just such a joke. No ordinary citizen gets this kind of treatment. Where he died is called Snowmass, Colorado, up in the mountains. Fitting name. Snowmass has gematria of 24, 33, 51. There's that number 33. 51 is the number of conspiracy, the small way. He died in Colorado, the 38th state. Colorado also has gematria of 38. Again, the number connected to death. He died on a date with 38 numerology. Snowmass, Colorado equals 62. We just saw Aubrey die on the 62nd day of the year. Again, Mason equals 62. Snowmass, the big way, equals 123. Conspiracies 51, the small way, 123, the big way. Colorado, 83. The reflection of 38. Royal Arch Masonry, a branch of Freemasonry, equals 206. Snowmass, Colorado equals 206. Again, dead 110 days before his prison sentence, which was to begin October 23rd, a suspicious date in itself. October is the only month with 33 gematria. 10 plus 23, 33. I think it's all just a big show. On October 17th, a judge threw out all of the charges against him because he was dead 6 days before he was supposed to go to prison. Also a date with 33 numerology. The indictment against Kenneth Lay was 65 pages. Remember Kenneth Lee Lay equals 65 page indictment. We've seen these kind of things before in hoaxes too. The Charleston church shooting with all the 33 coded all over it, and then Dylan Stormroof, the ridiculous name, gets a 33 count federal indictment. Federal equals 33. His time of death also tells me it was a hoax. They say he died at 311, the reflection of 113, the number we talked about in the beginning. 311, also an important number to this nation. USA breaks down to 311. Rhode Island in Jewish gematria equals 311. Rhode Island's the 13th colony. Think about that. The nation equals 311. The 13th colony equaled 311. This is what I mean by how the Masons are plotting the future by the numbers, executing by the numbers. The way I've come to figure this out is by researching it so long and seeing all the documented evidence. These people have a plan, they code it in the words, they code it by the dates. Rhode Island established on a date with 33 numerology, just like Delaware, the first colony. First and last. Of the 50 states, only 3 have 33 names. The first and last, Delaware and Hawaii, and the 6th, Massachusetts. Again, 13 colonies, USA equals 41, the 13th prime number. The beast in Jewish gematria equals 311, just like God of Earth. The Masons worship Satan. They think Satan is the god of this world. That's also what's said in the Bible. It's what many other people believe. The Masons, they're all about it. And they code all about it too. Ken Lay dead at 311, I'm sure. Those initials on Ken Lay too, K's the 11th letter, L's the 12th. In numerology, you break down all multi-digit numbers unless they're multiples of 11, then you have the option. So K can remain 11 in numerology. L being 12 is 1 plus 2 equals 3. Ken Lay is a lot like KL 11-3, the reflection of 311. Just like AM for Aubrey McClendon also makes that 113 formation. There's George W. Bush and Ken Lay, his biggest supporter. These two guys were everywhere at the beginning of the Bush administration before the news broke out. So why do these tyrants do what they do? Because of the way they live. Ken Lay lived in a palace before his death. He lived on the 33rd floor of a tower in Houston where Enron is. He lived at 2121 Kirby Street. Look at this reporting right here. At the time of Enron's collapse, it was the biggest corporate bankruptcy ever to hit the financial world. If you guys don't know how Enron operated, all of the nation had to change its accounting and tax principles. Enron, the way they operated was by saying, the way we're gonna make our profit this year is we're gonna build this plant and it's gonna produce this much money. And they would record that as their profit for the year, their projection. And that was the law of the land at the time. So Enron was just saying, we're gonna do this and we're gonna be worth this much and this counts as this much money. I mean, our whole market is a big Ponzi scheme. People in this nation don't recognize what's going on. They're not paying attention. They're not seeing what a fraudulent system we live in. Anyway, also, at the time of the scandal, on September 11th, that third building to fall, the one that most people still don't know about in New York, World Trade Center number 7, the one that was 47 floors tall, 47,000 square feet, named after Haim Solomon, who was born on April 7th, supposedly. That building was holding a lot of federal court documents against Enron and against WorldCom and the companies that had cheated the masses and all the people who invest in the market. So on September 11th, so many, what's the phrase, killing two birds with one stone? A lot of birds were taken out with the stone that was tossed that day. Anyhow, look at this. The Enron scandal drew attention to accounting and corporate fraud as its shareholders lost $74 billion. Remember, energy equals 74 billion. I don't think any of the numbers that they report are real, but what is real is how people lose their jobs, lose their savings, lose their pensions. That really did happen because of Enron's greed and because of all the greed at the top. Look at this place Ken Lay lived in on the 33rd floor. Look at this place, Truth Seeker. And from the real estate, from the MLS listing, this apartment, monthly maintenance fee over $10,000 just to maintain the place. This place was like it really is a palace. Just look at it. And who lives here? A deceiving fraud who bankrupted and caused, can't even find the word, Truth Seeker, caused all sorts of suffering and pain for millions of people in this nation. And this is why people suffer, so people like Ken Lay can live in palaces. This is why the people of the world need to rise up, hold all these tyrants accountable, and then we can all be forever better off after. We're all suffering for a few greedy people so that they can live in places like this. So, hopefully you made it through. I know it was a lot of numbers. Just like to show you how these people code. I think that's it, Truth Seeker. I'll link all of these posts in the description if you want to read through them yourself. Until next time.